Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. It now gives me a great pleasure to introduce Virginia Military Institute Superintendent General Benford P. III.
Well, good morning. Governor McAuliffe, Secretary Ward, guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Virginia Military Institute for the 27th Annual Environmental Virginia Conference. VMI is proud to be the host of this annual conference, along with our co-host, the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality, Virginia Department of Conservation and Recreation, and the Virginia Environmental Endowment. This event invites a free exchange between individuals, businesses, government agencies, and nonprofits for the greater environmental good. As in years past, this year's conference provides a useful forum to examine the relationship between environmental stewardship and economic development for the prosperity and well-being for all of the citizens of the Commonwealth. Our theme, as Colonel Gray mentioned, this year is Virginia's Environment, Change, Challenge, and Opportunity. It reflects the type of forward-thinking really necessary to preserve and protect and enhance the natural resources of our Commonwealth. During this conference, you will have an opportunity to hear from and confer with experts on all aspects of environmental management, policy, education, and science. In addition to the more than 40 breakout sessions, the agenda features special sessions on environmental careers, business, procurement opportunities, and a hot topics session with some of our state top environmental leaders in business and government and nonprofits. And tomorrow, you will hear from our plenary speaker, Dr. Mark Edwards, the Virginia Tech professor, now known at the heart of the Flint water crisis research issue. VMI has hosted this conference since its inception, and Captain Ronald A. Urchel, U.S. Navy retired, a professor of geology and civil engineering at VMI for 27 years, conceived the Environmental Virginia Symposium in 1990. He coordinated its annual meetings until his retirement. A 1961 graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy, he earned a master's degree from the Naval Postgraduate School and PhD from the University of Rhode Island. In his honor, VMI established the Urchel Environmental Leadership Award, which is presented each year at this conference. He passed away in 2011. Captain Urchel envisioned a conference characterized by a strong sense of community. We have followed his vision by working closely each year with a planning committee of government, nonprofit, and industry environmental professionals who work together to organize this conference. We welcome your feedback on our conference surveys every year, and with the committee's help, we're proud to bring you a diversity of viewpoints through strong panels and presentations on environmental topics of great importance to our state. This year's committee members' names are listed in your program, and we thank them for their service. Many of our exhibitors and sponsors have been part of this conference for years, and I want to also extend our warmest thanks to them. At VMI, we're proud of the environmental programs in the sciences and engineering. These programs are part of a long tradition at the Institute, representing our concern for the environment and for the Commonwealth. On behalf of the faculty and staff and the cadets at VMI, I extend you a really warm welcome, and I hope you have a stimulating conference and you enjoy your time at VMI and in historic Lexington. It is now my great pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, the 72nd Governor of Virginia, the Honorable Terry McAuliffe, who is making his second visit to the symposium and his third to VMI. Governor McAuliffe, as many of you know, is a lawyer, banker, businessman, entrepreneur, and politician. And originally from New York, he and his family have lived in Virginia for more than 20 years, so I suspect we really should say he's a Virginian. His entrepreneurial impulse started when he was a college student, and the legends of his early life are well known to all of us. From that age of 14, developing the McAuliffe driveway maintenance business, sealing driveways and parking lots. And since then, he has worked with and led numerous businesses in diverse sectors of the economy, helping to improve companies and create economic opportunity. His entry into politics started early, as he worked in the 1980 presidential re-election campaign of Jimmy Carter upon graduation from the Catholic University of America. And after that campaign, he earned a law degree from Georgetown University Law Center. In February 2001, he was elected chairman of the Democratic Party and served in that leadership position until the beginning of 2005. And since then, he has remained active in the greater world of politics and simultaneously has served as a visiting fellow at Harvard University's John F. Kennedy School of Government. In politics and business, he has worked with people from all walks of life and different political backgrounds. Since becoming governor, he certainly is focused on working in a bipartisan way to help grow Virginia's economy, developing initiatives designed to strengthen the Commonwealth's pro-business climate, and investing in the improvement and expansion of transportation facilities and other infrastructure in the state. He has conducted a series of trade missions around the globe with the result that he has helped to bring thousands of new jobs to the Commonwealth. He has been especially active in the areas of funding for education, speaking often on workforce development, and has worked tirelessly on behalf of our military and our veterans. He has taken the lead in cleaning up the Chesapeake Bay and diversifying Virginia's energy base. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the Governor of the Commonwealth, the Honorable Terry McAuliffe.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you. What an honor to be with you again today. I'm here a year in a row, and I'm proud to say I'm the first governor that has attended this conference twice in their term, and I'm going to break a record next year, and I'll be back again for my third and final year. But I want to thank General P and VMI for all the great work they do. You know, when my helicopter always lands out there in the field, there's a lot of excitement that goes up. Last year when I was here, one of the powers you get as the governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia is you get to pardon all of the folks that we have here who may have a few infractions and may be confined to their residence room at night and can't go out on weekends and all the little things that happen. You know, people make mistakes in life. I have the ability to pardon all that, and last year when I was here, I took away all the punishments and everybody was free at that point. So they're going to be a little disappointed when I came in here, and I'm going to go right back out to the helicopter without giving that ability. I said, man, oh man, I said I could definitely run for re-election if they'd let me that one day here. I'd get every vote at VMI. But it is great to be back at VMI, and I thank all the great work that everybody does here at VMI, and we are so proud of this institution. I would like to, if I could, recognize a couple of the folks who work with me every day. As you know, I've made the environment and making it better a cornerstone of my administration, and I'll talk a little bit about the things that we've done. Got a long way to go, but you think where we started and where we are today, it truly is remarkable that Virginia was really at the end of the pack on renewables and everything, and now we're leading the nation, and it's been a great team effort. But my Secretary of Natural Resources, Molly Ward, who heads this up, stand up. I'd like to recognize Molly Ward, who is here with us. And Department of Environmental Quality, Dave Paller, stand up. He heads up that organization for us. And Clyde Chrisman from DCR, who does a great job in all of the work that he does. I know that our great mayor of Lexington, Mimi Elrod, where's Mimi? Give her a great round of applause. Stand up, Mayor. Great to be in your city. So listen, I think we all agree, we know what a beautiful place Virginia is. I travel the globe constantly saying we have the prettiest state of all 50 states in America. I am known for superlatives. I just love life, and I love selling our great assets. But when it comes to our environment, listen, you look at what we have here in Virginia, 28 miles of oceanfront to Chesapeake Bay. There's nothing like the Chesapeake Bay anywhere around the globe. You look at the mountains just flying in here today, you just think of what the wealth of beauty that we have here. And I want to thank everybody who historically has worked to make sure that we are protecting many of those assets from the Blue Ridge Mountains to the Bay. These are the greatest gifts that we could have that past generations have given to us, and I really believe it's our responsibility to make sure that we are passing them on to our children and their children as we go forward. So we take this very seriously to protect our valued assets for our future generations of Virginians. As most of you know, I do chair the Chesapeake Bay's program. I'm in charge of all the governors of all the headwater states and everything around the Chesapeake Bay. I will be going into my second year, unanimously reelected. Wasn't a tough race, but the reason why is we lean in on that Chesapeake Bay. I got to tell you, there is no other asset like it, and you think of how important this bay is. Obviously, for the recreation piece that we have, for all the people who fish in that, it is a lifeblood for the Commonwealth of Virginia, and anything that could occur and affect that Chesapeake. One bad story could wipe out industry after industry here. So I truly understand the value of it, and we're working very closely with our neighboring governors. We're working closely with many of those headwater states. Some are doing a pretty good job, some are not. And we're really trying to make it clear to those states that are putting things in our beautiful headwaters that ultimately make it down to the bay that we just can't tolerate it, and we've got to get serious. We are very serious about it here in Virginia, and we need to make sure that all those other headwater states are doing what they can on water quality improvement. We have had tremendous progress. As you know, our decade-long effort to upgrade our sewage treatment plants, folks, I'm proud to announce, is near completion. We have invested the funds that we need to do. So that has been a huge issue for so long, and I can now announce that we are about at the end of that. We have taken care of that serious issue. Now we can begin to move on some of the other very important issues that we have as it relates to the bay. I'm very proud to announce, shockingly, that I put $140 million into the budget for water quality initiatives. I am proud to say that this was the largest investment ever made in the history of the Commonwealth on water quality issues, and I'm proud to say that we got bipartisan support, and that all of that money, not one single penny, was taken out. That is a historic day, folks, for the Commonwealth of Virginia. In fact, when Molly and I were sitting putting the budget together, she said, well, we'll put this in. This is on, all on the non-point source pollution. Let's see what we can get. And, not one penny came out. So I do think everybody's really reasoned. These are not political issues, folks. This is about our future and how we grow our future. So I'm proud to say that I can now say I put the largest amount of money ever in water quality here in the history of the Commonwealth of Virginia. The funding that we just put in will help our farmers keep the water that flows from their land clean. I always say, and Molly and I and everybody meet with our farmers, listen, these are the folks who, they love the land. They live off the land, and they want to do everything they possibly can to make sure that we keep the land and the water to the highest level possible. So they have been our partners on it, but they want partners that they actually can work with. And when we ask them to do things on their land, it's expensive to do it, and they want us to put up our share, and that's what we've done. So, we've got a good partnership that we have today. It's a big deal that we got accomplished. As you know, the Chesapeake Bay is such a national treasure and a vital ecological and economic asset for the Commonwealth. Water, key priority for all of us. As I say, we have to get this done. It's important. And now other states, especially those headwater states, are now looking at Virginia and saying, look what they were able to do down there. So I'm very proud that we have now become a little leader on environmental goals here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. But I also remind everybody, and I know you're all here for this symposium, 27th, and I'm proud to be here, but it's everybody's responsibility. You are all active in the environment, but it's really important that when you leave here that you tell other Virginians that it's their responsibility as well. We've got to make sure that stewardship, and this is something we've really leaned hard into, that stewardship of protecting our land and our water is everybody's responsibility, and we need to do a better job of getting our children actually engaged at a very, very early age on this. So that's why we have put funding in for environmental education, which is really central, I think, to our conservation efforts. I signed, as you know, Executive Order number 42, which I signed last April, which established the Virginia Environmental Literacy Challenge. We need to get our young folks outside of the classroom to go visit our great habitats and our natural resources so they, early on, get an affection for those beautiful natural resources, and then hopefully think about maybe actually having a career in environmental sustainability and policy. So it's very important for us. There's no better way to turn our citizens into great activists for the environment to have firsthand experience and go out and see our great treasured assets. That's why I've investing $41 million to modernize and improve our Virginia state parks. Clyde and I work very hard on the state parks. I should tell you, as you probably know, I am the first governor to visit all of our community colleges. I will be the first governor to visit all 36 of our state parks. Clyde, we're up to how many? 23. And we're going to knock off a bunch, but I'll be the first governor to visit all of our state parks. And while I'm at it, I want to be the first governor to visit all 144 craft breweries. I mean, what the heck? I mean, yeah. Let me tell you, if there's any guy who can do it, I am your man. I got to tell you, that's my Irish heritage. So, but I do love going to all of our state parks. They are so beautiful. But we have to upgrade them. We have to do what we need to do because we've got to get in compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. I want to make sure that every wounded veteran and disabled Virginia can go to every one of our parks. As you know, you've probably read in the newspapers, we have just added a beautiful new disability ramp at the governor's mansion. It's important. When I leave, you know, it's a beautiful mansion, 203 years old. A lot of history to it. I added a couple things. Every governor does something. I put a flagpole in. Believe it or not, we never had a flagpole at the governor's mansion, so now the stars and stripes and the flag of Virginia fly. My security detail was sick and tired of me on Flag Day and Veterans Day, Memorial Day, climbing out the window up top and nailing a flag in. They said, we're going to stop all this kind of stuff. So we actually put a flagpole up, which, you know, they're very proudly flying. In addition, we just had this ramp because I got to tell you, we do something now. We honor all of our wounded warriors. We do a picnic every year at the governor's mansion. We started this practice 2 years ago. And I got to tell you, you know, we can't have those folks who put on that military uniform and have fought for our great nation have to go around the back of the house, in through a mudroom, up an elevator. Now, we just cut the ribbon 2 weeks ago. Now, everyone who comes to visit this historic mansion can now enter on the first floor. That's what we need to do, and we're going to continue to do those types of things. And the same theory applies to our state parks. So I'm investing $41 million to upgrade our parks. We're going to have a new bridge to the amphitheater at the Hungry Mother State Park. We're going to overhaul the bridge at Stanton Battlefield State Park. We're going to do a lot of work, new cabins at Pocahontas and Powhatan. I don't know if you have had the opportunity to go to our state parks. I take, you know, Dorothy and I take our 5 children and our 2 dogs. These cabins are beautiful. If you really want to experience Virginia, and many of them right around rivers and lakes, they really are something. So we've invested a lot, and we're going to be building opening new parks in the Widewater State Park in Stafford, and then the Clinch River State Park in Southwest Virginia. So we are leaning in as much as we can on that. And we had a lot more money in for parks. General Assembly is not excited about state parks as much as I am, but whatever, that's as political as I'll get today. But we'll try to come back at it next year and try and do some more. But why? These investments obviously are good for the environment. We all know that. They're good for the economy. They're great for our communities. I think last year we had 8 million visitors to our state parks. Think of that. We had 1.1 million folks overnight in our state parks. And, you know, I love to go around when I stay at the state parks and look at the different license plates, and I'll go in, knock on the door and say, how you liking it, loving it? And I always say, well, you know, maybe get a beer with them, what the heck. You know, I'm just doing my best to be a good ambassador for the Commonwealth. And I always tell everybody, especially with an out-of-state license plate, I want every penny in your pocket spent before you leave our borders. And it's important. But I'm big into investments in our conservation. The 2-year budget that I just presented has $10 million for this purpose. Much of the land that we've protected with easements during this administration is now part of our new program which we established, which was the Virginia Treasures Program. So we tried to figure out a way to get the General Assembly to work with this. Some don't feel as strongly as maybe we do on land conservation and preserving land in perpetuity. So we came up with what I thought was a very clever way to do this, is that the Virginia Treasures Program highlights our great ecological, cultural, scenic, and recreational assets while increasing public access to them. So we're coming up with a creative way to have our Virginia treasures. We know that conservation should be about quality, not quantity. So that we have a priority on habitats of endangered species and areas along Virginia's waterways. So those are key assets for us. The cleanup of the Chesapeake Bay and the land conservation are enormous initiatives, but you know, those are just 2. There's a lot big other issues. The big issue I talk about a lot is climate change. Let me be very clear. under the prior administration, no one in the administration was allowed to use the word climate change. I have changed that. Climate change, climate change, climate change. I talk about it every day, okay? You know. I mean, you gotta be kidding me. So, and we brought the Climate Change and Resiliency Committee. I reorganized it, which had started then under then Governor Kane. That is now back up and running. I mean, these are serious issues. And as you know, the Supreme Court just put a stay on the President Obama's Clean Power Plan. But as you've seen from my comments, I'm saying, no, we need to move full steam ahead. We are not going to wait. We are going to begin the implementation here in Virginia now. So we are not waiting for the court. Like some states have backed off. I just want everybody to know we are not backing off. We are beginning the implementation because we have to do it. It is the right thing to do. We cannot sit around twiddling our thumbs waiting for the court. This is a very, very important issue for us. This is something I talk about every single day on climate change. You know, it's not just Tangier Island, but I was just at Tangier Island. A third of that island is gone. And if you look at the maps as we went out there with the federal folks who toured it with us, in 20, 25 years, Tangier Island will cease to exist. That is because the sea level, folks, is rising. You can go with me on any given day to Norfolk, Virginia, and if it's rained for a couple hours, many roads are just plain closed. I mean, this is happening. This is real. And I think it's incumbent that we need to do everything that we possibly can. And it's not just about the Hampton Roads region. It affects the entire state. We need to make sure that we at the state level are investing because local communities can't do this alone. I am very proud to say that we aggressively went after a new grant, Sustainability and Resiliency Grant from the federal government. Department of HUD just gave us the most of any state. We bid and won $120,549,000. So to help us begin to plan and do what we need to do, it's critical that we do this all over the state. And in fairness, we have to do a lot more than we've done in the past. People like to pretend that this is not a real issue and does not exist. It does. It is critical for us going forward. And why? Just look at what's happening all over the Commonwealth. I just had to tour many sites from 8 tornadoes that actually touched down, as you know, in February. That was a rarity for us. I went to Waverly. 3 people were killed in Waverly, as you know, including a 2-year-old child. You went out to Essex, saw the devastation there, and Accomack. These were tornadoes that hit us in February. There's something going on with the climate. Last year, I will tell you, we came this close. Hurricane Joaquin, and in addition, we'd had a nor'easter, for a couple days in Virginia. So all of our areas were waterlogged and under serious water. And normally during a hurricane, and then on Wednesday night, one of the, they have all the different models. One of the models had a direct hit on Hampton Roads. So we were faced, probably would have been the worst disaster in Virginia history. There were 8 different models. One had a direct hit. Normally what would happen in a crisis like this is I would have to reverse. I would shut 64 down. I would have to reverse all lanes. Everything would go one way. Heading west, the problem would be, heading west, you would have gone into areas that were already flooded. This would have been a titanic storm where both of these would have met together and would have been devastating. Billions of dollars would have affected the Commonwealth of Virginia. That was a real-life circumstance. Luckily, as you know, it veered. It went out east. It came around the coast and went out east. But if it actually had one of those tracks, and this is what we prepare for every single day. So, this is very serious things that we worry about every single day. We should understand not only it's the folks who live here in Virginia, but we are the home to the largest naval base in the world. That is a huge economic driver for the Commonwealth of Virginia. I just had all the military brass from the Navy came down to see me the other day. What are we doing on sea level rise? Because they got to protect, every aircraft carrier in the world for the United States of America is built in Virginia. You all know that. We've got 9 nuclear subs being built, and they're the home base to a lot of our carriers. So they want to know what we're doing. So you should all understand this is why I am on this every single day. It is critical, not only the environmental piece, but the citizens of the Commonwealth of Virginia, but also the economic impact that this could have as it relates to jobs. It is absolutely critical. As General P talked about, I ran for governor on the issue of jobs. And when you talk about jobs, I talk about building that new Virginia economy. It's not an economy of the past. We can't have it. We are the #1 recipient of Department of Defense dollars. That's great when they're spending, but when you have sequestration we had in the past, and it's coming again in 2 years, and government shuts down, we can't rely on the government the way we have to. We have to build the new 21st century economy, and for me, a big piece of that is environmental and renewable, because I think these are the jobs of the 21st century. We've done very well, which I'll talk about, but I should tell you, to the Virginians who are here today, I just announced a 4.1% unemployment. This is the lowest we've had since July of 2008. We have had 25 straight months of economic growth. We now have the lowest unemployment rate of any state in the southeast of the United States of America, and we just hammered the door of 4 million Virginians working, the most we've ever had. So our economy is strong, and we're really making great progress. I remind you, when I became governor, I inherited one of the largest deficits in Virginia history, which we now have the largest surplus in Virginia history, and I'm taking that surplus. And I'm taking that surplus, as the general talked about, and I just put $1 billion into education, the largest investment in the history of Virginia in education. I'm driving this money into protecting our environment. I am driving this new surplus into helping our veterans do what we need to do. So we're strong, but now how do we take it to the next level? And that's really what we have to do. First and foremost, not only protecting, but I also have to protect your taxpayer dollars. As you know, I took some criticism the other day. I'm fine with this, get it. But, you know, I vetoed the coal tax credit extension. Now, coal tax, I doubt anyone in this room was angry with me, but this coal, listen, tax credits are to create jobs. That's their job. That's why we have them, because we're taking your taxpayer money, we're giving them to a business and say, you create jobs, which I'm fully supportive of. We do tax credits for a lot. But I vetoed this legislation last year. I did it again because, in fairness, we have spent $610 million on a coal tax credit extension, and 90% of the jobs have been lost. So now you come back to me and say, you want taxpayer dollars for me to give it to a bankrupt company that is in bankruptcy, and this company just gave $10–15 million of bonuses to their executives, which the bankruptcy court approved, and you want me to take our taxpayer money, and do that? I don't think so. If you had given me that $610 million and let me loose in Southwest Virginia on renewables and building solar manufacturing plants and turbines and blades, I'd have that economy humming. So I want you to know that I'm dead serious about protecting. We know we need to create jobs in South Side and Southwest Virginia, but I'm not throwing your taxpayer money at something that doesn't do what it's intended to do. We need to help these communities. We have about 4 million Virginians working today. How many do you think work in the coal business today out of 4 million? Take a guess, sir. 1,900. That's it. So my point that I continue to try to make, if you want to help these communities, let us begin to build a new economy. And renewables is one of the best places that we could possibly do it. And that has really been the focus that I've tried to bring to folks and what we need to do. Because let's be clear, I just got back from Washington State. You know, I just talked to Jeff Bezos, I've talked to the folks at Microsoft, I've talked to the folks at Google. Those 3 companies have billions of dollars invested in Virginia today, thousands of jobs. They have made it perfectly clear they will not build one plant in one state if you cannot give them renewable energy. So if you don't want to have these new 21st century companies, you better start getting active in solar, and you better start getting active in wind, because that's what we need to do. So listen, I pay attention when these CEOs say these things to me, and that's why we are now moving at warp speed here in the Commonwealth to create these kind of jobs in the wind and the solar. We have made some tremendous progress already. I was excited to announce last month that we are now partnering with Dominion Virginia and Microsoft to build a new 20-megawatt solar facility here in Virginia. This public-private partnership, the way we have structured it, is the first of its kind in the entire nation. So Virginia will now be leading the way, public-private coming together to build solar and renewable energy. Nothing like this has been done anywhere else in the country. In addition to this project, we're working to undertake a number of initiatives to achieve the goals in the energy plan that I put out that's on our website. In December of last year, I announced that I want 8% of all procurement for energy for all state agencies to come from renewables. That is a very, very aggressive goal, but I like aggressive goals, and if you don't have aggressive goals, you can't meet them. And I do believe that we can meet them, and we won bipartisan support in our budget to fund 3 now full-time positions within the Division of Energy that is focused solely on clean energy. And this is big news for us, folks, because you remember we had not been really doing anything. Virginia was not thought of as a renewable energy state, therefore hard to recruit manufacturers to come to our state because they say, well, Virginia doesn't care. Last year, we changed the law to allow businesses to place larger solar facilities on their own buildings. These initiatives are already bearing fruit. Nearly 200 megawatts of utility-scale solar projects are now scheduled to be in service by the end of this year. I was recently down in Accomack County with Amazon. We are building, I just signed off on an 80 PBR, permit by rule, for a facility down there. 80 megawatts now with Amazon. It's a great job creator down there for us. It's important. It is now, will be the largest solar field in the entire mid-Atlantic, second biggest on the entire East Coast. The only bad part of that day, had all the cameras there when I did the big unveiling, and I walked over to the solar panel, and I looked at it, said, isn't that beautiful? The guy who owns the company said, yeah, it's beautiful. I said, ain't that beautiful? He said, made in Georgia. Now, if you know anything about my personality, that was not a good moment for anybody. If it had not been installed, I probably would have smashed the thing. But my point is, that shouldn't happen. They should be manufactured here in Virginia. We got to tie all of this stuff together. In addition, a 30 megawatt being built by our electric cooperatives and nearly 80 megawatts Dominion has announced as a result of our new solar RFP. So we have Virginia's, first onshore wind farm being built by Charlottesville-based Apex Wind that will be built down in Botetourt. We're making great progress. We do have the offshore federal lease for the first offshore wind project. It's complicated. The bids came in about 3 times higher than originally anticipated. We're going back, and Dominion's going back and looking at that RFP. We do have challenges, of course. Anytime you put poles in our water, it does affect a lot of the submarine and the other military assets, but we're trying to work through that. Virginia had roughly 18 megawatts of solar, and the wind projects were virtually non-existent when I spoke to you a year ago. So the announcements that we have today, the Microsoft project alone that I just announced will double Virginia's entire installed capacity over what I announced to you a year ago. So by the end of the year, Virginia will see its solar generation grow by more than 10-fold compared to the start of my administration 2 years ago. So we now are putting all the tools in place. I'm pretty fired up. But then again, I'm always fired up, but I am really fired up that we now have a renewable energy industry here in Virginia. We have now sent the word out. I just got back from California. I met with 4 Chinese companies that are based in California on solar manufacturing to try and recruit a couple of them to come to Virginia. So, folks, our tools are in place. When I spoke to you a year ago, we have made dramatic progress. There's now excitement on renewables. The Bay, we've got tremendous progress on the Bay. As I say, the largest investment ever in the history of protecting our water here in Virginia. So I wanted to come here and say thank you. You have all been very active. You've all been helpful to us to help lobby the legislature. And first and foremost, we've made great progress. But we got a long way to go. But I do want you to know that this team over here, we are all in. I want Virginia to be the shining example of what we do to protect our air, our land, and our water. We need to lead the way here. I like Virginia. I don't get out of bed to be 2, 3, or 4. I like us to be the best. We face challenges, but we can do it, and we can do that as a partnership. So thank you for the great work that you've done, and I'll be glad to take a couple questions. Thank you. Thank you. And if you get too technical, that's why I got all my people here.
Hi, Christine Ng from Rambo and Byron. Since we're here at a university setting, wondering if you can give advice to students about, what are the kinds of majors that they should be considering to get jobs in these new industries?
Well, I think, listen, the whole, and I try to tell young folks, when I talk about this new Virginia economy, you know, listen, I read a lot, I study a lot. As General P said, I've been involved in business. I've started 30 different companies. I've been in renewable. I think this is one of the hottest spaces for young people to be in. A couple spaces. One, environment. The other, I would tell you, is cybersecurity. I think those are the two areas, and I keep trying to tell folks, these are the two areas that you need to be in. I think the whole issue around environmental quality, billions and billions and billions of dollars are going to be spent on the whole issue of resiliency and what we do to protect ourselves from sea level rise. You know, I'm in public. If I were back in the private sector, I would be thinking every single day of how do I start a business in this space, because these are going to be jobs for years and years. The sea level is going to continue to rise. It's going to create challenges for all of us, both those on the water, but those inland. It's going to affect all of us greatly. I do try to stress, and I've done it with the college presidents and with the superintendent of schools, Steve Staple, at the high school level, we need to be doing a better job. We don't teach our children really about the environment. We don't teach them about the issues, and that's why we have this whole new program about going into the grade schools, getting them out of the schools, and letting them visit some of our great treasures so that they understand, oh, I understand this, and maybe I ought to pay attention and start studying it. I would say that I think we've got to look. I told the college presidents the other day, I met with them all, we've got to look at the core courses that we're offering. It gets into a bigger issue. We have a lot of jobs open today. I have right now 17,000 cyber jobs open right now in Virginia. It drives me crazy because these cyber companies aren't going to wait for me to film. If we can't film, they'll go somewhere else. I want us to become the cyber capital. And for all of you parents out there, I want you to know the starting pay is $88,000. You're all so young, but in my day, we had a movie called The Graduate, and the big phrase was plastics. I tell you now, it's cyber and environment. I think that's the future. And God, to get in these jobs and within 2 years you're making $105,000, I mean, this is what's going on in these hot areas. And I just think we have to do a better job at the high school level. I think the day you come, and I'm in my budget, this is not, you're all Virginians, but in my budget, I'm trying to transform Virginia high schools. High schools in America don't work anymore. They don't. They are big buildings with classrooms with seats. And you get credit for sitting in seats. I would rather see core courses earlier in high school. Everybody who comes into high school ought to know the environmental jobs, the hot space. They ought to know that there's 17,000 cyber jobs. Maybe I should take some computer science, maybe some code writing. And then your junior, senior year, I'd rather see you out getting some industry credentials. Go out and spend a little time in industry. We got to, the jobs in Virginia, we're going to create about 1.5 million new jobs in the next decade. 985,000 Virginians will retire, and we'll create about 550,000 new jobs just in the next 10 years. 50 to 60% of those jobs, folks, will require more than a high school degree, but less than a 4-year degree. That's why if you look at my budget, I'm driving apprenticeships in industry credentials and trying to get folks so that it's a different skill set. The high schools were built in the Industrial Revolution. Those days are over. And we got jobs. We got to make sure when you get out, instead of our children getting out of school with a huge debt and no skills, let's have a skill set so you can go right into the market. You know, and everybody's different. Listen, my daughter last year got out and love her dearly, and she's over in Africa saving elephants, making 40 grand a year. But, you know, I said, Dory, couldn't you take one code writing? Whatever. No, I mean, I just got a son out of the Naval Academy. He's a Marine. He wasn't free. He get 5 years. But, you know, I'm trying to balance the family out here. But my point is, listen, we got jobs and we got to do it. But the environmental for the young folks here today, and I think it's really incumbent on the whole ecosystem of education. We need to promote it more. Our teachers need to promote more. We need to be offering more courses. And boy, I tell you, I can get you great paying jobs, no question about it. And some state's going to lead the way. I just want us to lead it. That's what this $1 billion I just put in education is all about, transforming education. And for all you parents in Virginia, I have gotten rid of 5 SOLs. We got more to come, and I've changed in the whole, because let's be honest, I mean, teachers were teaching to test when I ran for governor. Every teacher said I quit teaching because I was tired of teaching to test. Kids memorize. Ann Holton and I just did, 8 school roundtables around the Commonwealth. Every student said, yeah, I memorized it for the test. I don't remember one thing I did for that test. You know, you want our children thinking critically, cognitive thought process going on. That's a different skill set than learning to memorize. So we're changing that. And I've also put money in the budget very creatively for what we call new CAP, computer adaptive testing. Every child will have a test, but it'll be different questions depending on how they're answering. So we actually get a good idea what they're learning and not learning, so we can adjust accordingly. One size does not fit all. Doesn't fit all for education, for the economy, so we're making great progress. So it's a long answer to your question, but it's more incumbent upon us to make sure that we are providing the tools. But as I say, we're trying to work hard at the grade school level to make sure early on our children understand, boy, the environment, it's important. This is what happens with sea level rise. This is how it affects your economy. And might be something I might be excited about working in. But it's a great field because, as I say, we're just at the tip of the iceberg, and there's going to be a lot of money spent and a lot of industries created on the whole resiliency and sustainability issue.
Rob Alexander, James Madison University. Thank you very much, Governor, for your strong language around climate change and for sharing the information you did about solar. As you know, there's a grassroots solar effort in the Commonwealth as well in terms of individual citizens and co-ops popping up. I'm wondering, what is your administration doing to help these efforts to get solar as well, particularly when I think in some communities they might have some pushback from the larger utilities. So how might you be helping the grassroots solar efforts in the Commonwealth too?
Yeah, it's probably our top issue on the environment is the whole, that's why I've now changed the law so that individual businesses, large, can use them, do it themselves on their buildings. I think solar is probably the hottest thing going today. And listen, as I tell you, when I sit with Jeff Bezos and he will say, we're not going anywhere unless you can give us the solar energy, that means, and listen, Amazon's booming, the thousands of employees we have here today. So we're open to all different things that we can help turbocharge the solar industry. It's hard to get, and listen, it is what it is. I think solar is important, not to get into the sausage making of the legislative process. I put us $1 million a year in the budget on solar. Not a lot of money out of a $109 billion biennium budget. General Assembly took it out. I met with the conferees. I said, folks, are you kidding me? $1 million's not a lot, but what message are we sending to businesses around the country when I just have explained to you how these big companies feel about solar, and they kept it out. So I'm going to have to come up with some other creative. This is the stuff sometimes drives me nuts about the legislative process. I mean, I don't get it. It's baffling. Not like $1 million is going to, with all the other money we've invested in the budget and, over $10 million to celebrate, which is fine, the 2019, a historic thing we're going to do at Jamestown. I think that's terrific. But I'm really trying to focus on common sense things. I try to, listen, I am a very fiscally conservative, pro-business Democrat. I'm very socially progressive. I'm a huge believer that the government ought to stay out of people's personal lives. That's why last week I just vetoed 2 bills. I vetoed a bill when they're going to try and defund money from Planned Parenthood. I just defunded that religious freedom bill last week, which would have been discriminatory toward LGBT members. Folks, you got to take your walls down. Look what's happening in North Carolina today, I can tell you. We've probably got 12 leads that have come to us since what happened last week. Got to stop all this. So, sometimes you get frustrations, but, we had the $1 million, and they took it off. So, I'm trying to be a chief advocate of solar. Why? Because everything I've talked about here today, it's right for the environment. Sea level is rising, but it's jobs of the future, which is so important. Hello, John. How are you today? John Bowles, stand up, BMRC. Give him a great round of applause. I didn't see you earlier. Is that Angela? Is Angela here? Here you are. Stand up, Angela Navarro, our Deputy Secretary of Natural Resources in the House. Hard to see with all these spotlights on me. Great. But it's a whole team, folks. I want you to know that you really, in Virginia, you have a passionate team working on all these issues. And I get up here and make all these great pronouncements, but it's all of these folks who just give their heart and soul, and they could be doing a lot in the private sector. They're in state government to make a difference, so I want to thank all of them. Anybody else?
Yeah, this Eileen with Sierra Club, Virginia chapter.
Yep.
Just as a follow-up, the Clean Power Plan, the state implementation of that, that could have more insertion of solar in there.
That's right.
It's from what we're hearing that's going to lean too heavily on gas, and there's a lot of issues with gas. But if we could supplement some of that with more solar, more wind, and less of gas.
A great point, and I think ultimately, and listen, the court will make their decision, I don't know, by the end of the year. What do you think? I mean, we're hoping by the end of the year we'll probably hear what the court, you know, they've issued the stay, and we'll see where we are, but we're not waiting. But you are exactly right. When that plan ultimately comes out, that will then, I believe, give us the leverage to do what we need to do here. So when I talk about all these issues and some of the frustrations I have, I do know that very soon I think we can resolve a lot of these issues when that finally is, you know, it finally is resolved. However, I don't want to make today political, but this is why elections matter, folks, and people need to vote. That's all I'm going to say. You take that for what it's worth. But, I mean, last week, those 2 vetoes I did, if I weren't sitting here today, let me tell you, those bills would have been signed. And let me tell you, we'd be facing the exact same thing that North Carolina, Indiana have gone through. And you know, I mean, Wes Bush, you know, who's the chairman of Northrop Grumman, one of our biggest companies, called me the other day to thank me for the vetoes. He said, Terry, you got to understand, he said, the majority of my workforce are women. He said, I have gay employees. People have got to let me do what you want me to do, create jobs here in the Commonwealth. Let me do that. Let my people live in peace and work for the company. I said, I get it. I mean, this does matter, folks. So elections do matter. People fought and died for the right. We need to make sure. And the only thing drives me absolutely, gets me a little irritated, especially, you know, Virginia, every year we have elections, every year. And that has a cause and effect that, you know, everybody's going to show up this year. Sure, it's a presidential, but then next year is a governor's race. And all 3 statewide are up, and you drop by half the turnout. Think of that. And yet, the governor and other state officials and attorney general probably have more say over your everyday life than the federal government does. And yet, people just, they don't come out in those off years. And, you know, not to get into all of it, I mean, we got to end this gerrymandered districts. I am for independent, nonpartisan lines. I'd love to see 50-50 lines. I mean, last year in the General Assembly, we had all 140 state legislators were up. 79 did not even have an opponent. Why? Because the lines are drawn that you can't lose the general election. So why run? I get that. So, you know, a lot of things we need to do. But listen, you're all activists. I know we all vote. But it's really got to convince everybody. If you love the environment and others, you just got to get out there every year. It's important. I mean, we've pushed hard. I've had to do a lot of this through executive order and executive directive. As I say, for 4 years before me, you were not allowed to use the word climate change in the state government. What? So you get, I don't care how you vote. You just got to vote. Well, I do care, but I'm a General P's institution. I don't want to, you know. Okay, we got time for one more. Anyone got a last question? And how are we doing on? There's no way I could see with these lights up there, but I know people are all waving up there. Molly, we tried to put a lot more money on the stormwater, right? You take the mic here. Let the Secretary of Natural Resources say.
We did not put money in the Stormwater Assistance Fund. There was money, the legislature did propose money. What did we end up with, David? I don't think that the legislature passed the amount. The problem with the stormwater proposals was at the time that we were doing the budget, we did not have firm requests from localities that we could persuade the General Assembly that we would, that we had things, projects ready to go that we could fund. The stormwater is the amount of money we're going to need to fund stormwater, the Stormwater Local Assistance Fund is unknown and is huge, and is something we're still grappling with. And I know Ted Hennepin from HRSD is here. We have, exciting new projects coming down the pike, we hope, that will reduce the amount of money some of our localities need for stormwater assistance, but it's certainly something that's on our radar and something certainly we'll look at next year.
Great. Thank you, sir. Appreciate the question. And let me just say, fine, listen, you're all active. Thank you. I just want you to know you have a willing partner in the state government now. And listen, we're really trying to move this forward. We couldn't do it without your help, and I really appreciate you coming to this. But more importantly, I really appreciate when you get back home in your communities, start talking about all of these issues we're talking about, because it affects the environment, affects jobs, and everything that we're trying to do. And help me work with our school systems to make sure people are engaged much earlier. And listen, we're doing great here in Virginia, but literally we're setting the place for the next 20 or 30 years, and I appreciate all the help you do. Thank you very much, and have a great conference.